Hello and welcome to Frontrunner Motorsport. Another weekend of motorsport action has come and gone, and we have new champions crowned and old names not hitting the highs of previous years. In today's video we'll be looking at the WRC and the Central European Rally, the final round of European Le Mans Series at Portimao, the final round of DTM from Hockenheim, Super GT from Autopolis, the penultimate round of TCR World Tour from Zhuzhou in China, NASCAR from Las Vegas, and the final rounds of Euro Formula from Monza. We've already looked at the United States Grand Prix in this video, so check that out after watching this one. And with that, let's jump into this look back at the weekend's racing. Make sure you subscribe and let's begin.
After finishing runner-up 5 times, it does feel like it's his turn. All he has to do is score points, good points, and with the year ending on 2 tarmac rallies, road sweeping is not going to be an issue. His biggest challenger is his teammate Ott Tanak, and he is going to be going hell for leather in the last 2 rounds. He needs to win both rounds, and he will in the Central Europe Rally. This will give us a thrilling climax to the year in Japan. And talking of Japan, Takamoto Katsuta is back and will be going head-to-head with his potential replacement in Sami Pajari. This is a battle that could have implications for 2025, although I suspect we'll see both of them share that seat in 2025. And as for Ogier and Evans, I think they will be up in the top positions, let's say 2nd and 3rd ahead of Neuville, but it won't be enough to stay in title contention for the finale. So Rally Japan will be a straight fight between the Hyundai pair, Neuville versus Tanak. Thierry Neuville can finally take that first World Rally Championship, if he stays mistake-free over the next 2 rallies. He can end 12 years of waiting.
The penultimate round of the World Rally Championship was crossing borders, with the Central European Rally. Germany, Austria and the Czech Republic were playing host to the superstars of rallying. Day 1 and 2 were very close between the top 3. Thierry Neuville led Sebastian Ogier and Ott Tanak, with only 8 seconds separating the trio. Everyone had made mistakes on the greasy roads during the first 8 stages, but none bigger than Andreas Mikkelsen hitting a fence on day 2. He was out and others struggled with hybrid units that couldn't withstand the jumps. Elfyn Evans and Takamoto Katsuta were falling away from the top places, and there were bigger gaps to everyone behind. The most interesting story was in WRC 2. Johan Rossell survived a major scare on day 1 when he nearly rolled his Citroën. That left him a minute behind teammate Nikolai Gryazin, and Rossell had to win the rally to win the WRC 2 title. After day 2 was over, he had a lot of work to do, and Oliver Solberg was not sympathetic.
Karma is a bitch, I guess.
On to day 3, and it was tricky for everyone. Thierry Neuville lost the lead after going off twice on stage 11 and getting temporarily stuck in a ditch. At the end of day 3, Ogier led from Tanak and Evans, with Neuville half a minute behind. Adrien Fourmau was the only casualty of the day, although by this point Johan Rossell's WRC2 title hopes were over. So 4 stages on the final day with more points up for grabs, but not for Sami Pajari. A big roll on the first stage of Sunday meant he was out, but even worse for Toyota was another mistake from Sebastian Ogier. He crashed on the penultimate stage and he was also out. Points lost for Toyota, Ogier out of the championship hunt. It was a disaster. So it was Ott Tanak who won, and the fight for the championship is between the Hyundai pair, and Hyundai pull further in the constructors. But nothing is decided, and so Japan will settle everything, including WRC 2, which Sami Pajari can still win.
So who is going to win in the Algarve? AO will win the race and the LMP2 championship. Louis Delatraz is a master of winning LMP2 championships, and Robert Kubica has been winning fairly often as well since moving to endurance racing. They have the experience and the talent to take the crown in 2024. The top 3 in LMP3 are separated by just a couple of points. I think RLR will take it at the last with the win in Portugal, but it will be close. And the GT class, which just about anybody can still win, I think we'll see a second win of the year for the Iron Dames team, but the championship will go to the Racing Spirit of Le Mans team. They are currently tied on points with the Kettle Racing Ferrari, but the Aston Martin will take the championship.
4 hours of racing in Portugal to finish off the ELMS season. We got a big hit at the start when the Inter-Europol LMP2 car spun in front of the field and was collected by one of the oncoming GT cars. There was a lot of other cars making contact at the start of this race. The championship chasing GT Aston Martin lost its back window in the fighting. We even had a 4-car pile-up of sorts before the first hour was up. A lot of yellows then in the first hour. The race settled down for a bit after that. In the last hour, Ollie Jarvis became the latest car to hit the 59 Aston Martin. Sadly, the car tied on points for the GT Championship was hit several times throughout this race, ruining their chances of glory. So the last hour started with a safety car. Every class was still exceptionally tight, and nothing was for certain with half hour left. And as soon as we restarted, another crash involving the number 10 Vector Sport car. That meant another yellow. It was impossible to keep track of who was going to be champion in any class. A fantastic race. I recommend watching this one. Cool Racing won the race, but AO by TF won the LMP2 title. Cool Racing also won in LMP3, but it was RLR who took the championship by a single point, and Iron Lynx passed their stablemates at the final corner to take the GT win and GT championship. Absolutely incredible stuff from European Le Mans. I can't wait to do it all again in 2025. Most of these championships were still up for grabs on the final lap of a 4-hour race. Absolute madness.
And Mirko Bortolotti took the championship lead and his first DTM win of the year at the Red Bull Ring. Can he hold on to take his first DTM title? The gauntlet is thrown down to Kelvin van der Linde and Mara Engel to stop him, the latter of which hasn't taken a win yet, so I will give Engel win number 1 of the weekend. And the final DTM race will be won by Sheldon van der Linde, beating his brother and stopping him from winning the title. Mirko Bortolotti will be the 2024 DTM champion and a first DTM title for Lamborghini.
The final round of DTM at Hockenheim, 3 championship contenders here, Mirko Bortolotti, Mara Engel and Kelvin van der Linde. It was the South African who led early on, but all 3 were in the top 5. Kelvin van der Linde had to fight back past Lucas Aura after the pit stops. Meanwhile, Jack Aitken got taken out by Nicky Tim, the only incident of a very clean race. Kelvin van der Linde survived a scare from Aura and took the win and the championship lead by 2 points with 1 race to go. Unfortunately, the last race was incredibly dull. Luca Enxler won from the champion, Mirko Bortolotti. Deserved champion, the Lamborghini driver has been brilliant all year, but this was a damp squib of an ending to the year for DTM. The only high point was the debut of Jules Gounon. Hopefully, we will see him next year in the DTM.
Super GT is coming from Autopolis. Still a few races left in 2024 and the championship is very close, as it always is in Super GT. I think we'll see a win for former champions Kazuki Hiramine and Bertrand Baguette. The 2022 champions haven't won since that fateful year at Suzuka, and so it is definitely about time they did so.
Super GT from Autopolis. There are still a couple of rounds to go after this one, so it's more of a case of seeing if a title picture forms than crowning a champion here. There were some fantastic battles in both classes in the early part of this race. We got a safety car on lap 28 after Yuji Kunamoto went off. Strangely, Team Arta tried to pit when the pit lane was closed, which put a damper on their race. Kazuya Oshima fed Kakanushin Ota into the wall and was penalised with a drive-through. Ota was not best pleased, as you can imagine. Nissan were leading the race, but were at a disadvantage on pit stop strategy, and it was interesting watching the race play out. Takuya Izawa slammed his Nakajima Honda in the wall and brought out another safety car as everyone pitted, putting a Toyota in the lead. This was a fantastic and frenetic race. Sadly, it ended under safety car after the Subaru of Takuto Iguchi had a massive crash. The Team Star Toyota took the win, Yui Sakaguchi for the first time in 3 years, and first in 4 years for Yuichi Nakayama. The title picture is no clearer with 2 rounds left. Next up is Motegi in a couple of weeks' time.
Rob Huff is back in the championship, warming up for his usual victory at Macau, and I think he'll get things started with a win in China. The other will go to Jan Ehrlichie. The Lincoln Co driver has had a rough year and needs a win to get back in the title fight, in time for the final round at Macau.
TCR World Tour was in China for their penultimate round of the year, and it was the Lincoln Co's starting at the front at their home race. Mikel Azcona managed to break their monopoly at the front, but not before we got a safety car for Lai Jingwen's broken Audi, and not long after, Martin G ended up with a broken suspension for safety car number 2. So not a lot of racing went on in this one. Marco Botti took the opportunity to stick some wets on, and as the rain came down heavier, he managed to climb all the way back up to 6th. Mikel Azcona defeated all the Lincoln Co's on their home turf in quite a messy race. Race 2 went much the same way. Hu Heng in the Audi had a crash and brought out an early safety car. We got some great battles in this one. Marco Butti and Santiago Arusha went to war, and Marco Inghar took the lead on the final lap from Lester Girolami after a very aggressive overtake. A Chinese winner in a Chinese car in China. Norbert Mikulitz had a pretty anonymous weekend. He still leads the championship, but the top 5 are only separated by 27 points, with just 2 races to go at Macau. Expect carnage at the famous Gaia race in 2024.
NASCAR is in the city of sin, and we are down to the last 8 in the playoffs. Kyle Larson won last time out, so won't be doing that again in Las Vegas. I think the win will go to Joey Logano, who will be riding his luck after slipping into the final 8 at the last possible opportunity once Alex Bowman was disqualified in Charlotte. Will that luck carry him to the NASCAR Cup? I doubt it, but with NASCAR, you never know.
NASCAR from Las Vegas and the final 8 were looking to secure a place in the final 4. Austin Dillon had a massive shunt, a really nasty looking one, but he wasn't in the final 8 anyway. But Chase Elliott and Tyler Reddick were, and a big crash and a roll from Reddick was not what either driver was wanting. Blaney and Larson would also have issues that dropped them to the back of the field, and it was Joey Logano who was the world's luckiest man in Vegas. After sneaking into the final 8 at the last, he took the win and is now in with a chance of a 3rd NASCAR Cup win. Only 3 races left to go.
And the Monza round in 2023 was very entertaining. Unfortunately, all of the championships have been settled. Brad Benavides is your champion, and there isn't anything to fight for. The most high-profile battle in the series is the fight for 3rd between Fernando Barrichello and Levente Revege. The Brazilian will take a win here at Monza, Francesco Simonazzi will win race 2, and I'll go back in on Edward Pearson to win race 3.
Finally, let's take a look at Euro Formula for the final time in 2024, coming from the Temple of Speed, Monza. All the championships were already settled, so this was all just for fun. Yvonne David led the majority of his debut race, but was closed down brilliantly by Fernando Barrichello, who has improved leaps and bounds this season. Unfortunately, the Brazilian mistimed his braking and ended up hitting the back of David and going off. Yvonne David did take his debut win. Race 2 was even wetter than race 1. Fernando was not done spinning for the weekend, making contact with Francesco Simonazzi, sending them both round, whilst Brad Benavides took a big lead and the eventual win. And the final race of the year ended very quickly for Jose Garfias, and so we got a safety car for a few laps. Francesco Simonazzi got punted round again on what was a pretty terrible final weekend for the Italian runner-up in the championship. Yvonne David took the win for the 2nd time in the weekend, a great debut from the Sri Lankan, but Brad Benavides is your champion, and another lackluster weekend of Euro Formula for the last time in 2024. I don't know why this series continues to exist, but it'll probably be back in 2025. So that was all the action from the previous weekend. Fantastic racing all round, pretty much. Euro Formula was a bit dull, but no more than usual. Picking a race of the weekend is really, really difficult because so much of it was entertaining, but I have to give it to Super GT race at Autopolis, which was one of the craziest 3 hours I've ever seen. Let me know your race of the weekend in the comments below. Next weekend we have more Formula 1 from Brazil, but we also have a penultimate round of Supercars from Surfers Paradise, Stock Car Brazil from Uruguay, NASCAR from Miami, the final round of Formula Regional Europe from Monza, and the return of the Motorsport Games from Valencia. So with all that coming up, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you very much for watching, and have a good one.